Guys, I hate to say it, but this movie is actually pretty rad. If you want my full thoughts on the movie itself, check out the D20 review going up sometime today. This video will talk about several aspects of the movie, but today we are here to talk about the alignment, and specifically we're looking at the alignment of Cruella de Vil in this alternate universe look at the famous character. And yes, I'm going to consider this an alternate timeline. It has to be. I'll talk about it more in the post-analysis section of this video, but before we get ahead of ourselves, howdy friendos, my name is Stuart, and welcome to a video I did not expect myself to want to write as much as I am. Like many people, I am sick of Disney live-action reimaginings, I guess. Cinderella was cringy, Dumbo was dumb, Jungle Book was okay, and Aladdin sure tried. Also, I just really hated Maleficent, and that's because most of the time I think these are creatively bankrupt failures that are just trying to course correct stuff that doesn't need to be course corrected. The old Disney movies are fine, especially villains. But let's get into this. This movie is meant to be the origin story of the villain Cruella de Vil from the 1956 novel turned Disney movie 101 Dalmatians. You all probably know the story, it's not super complicated. Cruella in those movies loved fur coats, she became obsessed with Dalmatian fur, tried to kidnap a bunch of puppies, kill them, skin them, and make them into coats. It did not work out for her. In this movie, Cruella's birth name is Estella and was raised by her mother in a small England town, but had a mean streak and disposition that was very blunt and rude. Because of this, her mother gave this mean streak persona the nickname Cruella. This mean streak eventually got her rejected from school, which required them to seek a new life elsewhere. But to do that, they required money. So one night, her mother, on their way to London, stopped by a fancy estate, and due to some bad luck, some Dalmatians attacked Stella and then pushed her mother off of a cliff. Believe it or not, this is not the Nat 1 scene that the internet wants you to think it is. I will explain later. After the dogicide, Stella made it to London where she met Jasper and Horace, and they grew up as petty thieves and con artist orphans as a family. Now, even though they were petty thieves, they were still, in fact, thieves that did not discriminate who they took from, and they stole in excess. They also didn't pay taxes, but we're only talking about one thief today, not a whole government. Because of this life of crime, they would technically begin at neutral evil, but since they are fairly non-violent, it's not like they were total dicks about it. We're actually going to be fairly generous with Cruella and label her as true neutral, bordering true evil. Obviously, this isn't where she ends up, but it will be a fun starting point. You guys like seeing characters move around the board and switching alignments anyway, I know you do. And with that out of the way, let's go. Cruella applies for and begins working for a fashion store, I guess, called Liberty. She lied on her resume to get in, but I literally don't care. We all lie on our resumes a little bit. By the way, if anyone asks, I taught 2 semesters at Harvard. Anyway, she spends a period of time working as a janitor. She does so without complaint while still trying to pitch ideas to her boss. All in all, neutral. One night, Stella gets drunk and redecorates a display mannequin. This impresses another major character called the Baroness, so much that she is given a job. This is obviously chaotic neutral, and technically we'll count that twice when she bails with Jasper and Horace after they steal a bunch of stuff. Stella then spends the next 10 minutes of movie working for the Baroness. She performs her tasks dutifully, so I'm just gonna say lawful neutral. Stella conspires with Jasper and Horace to steal a necklace that Stella believes belongs to her. Since Stella believes that this is her necklace at the time, she is actually doing a chaotic neutral action rather than a neutral or chaotic evil action. Granted, she could have planned a different night to steal the necklace, but let's face it, we wouldn't have gotten this otherwise Nat 20 scene. Hot damn. Over the next, 20 minutes of movie, Stella, acting as Cruella, sabotages several public events, is a dick to Jasper and Horace, Anita Darling, and is just kinda using people for her own personal gain, and she's just kinda being Cruella. Chaotic evil twice for the extended act, especially considering that she is doing this now for revenge and not getting it back at her for perceivingly stolen property. I debated counting this as part of the whole montage from earlier, but it's both too much of a Nat 20 scene and a huge act not to count it on its own. Cruella creates a headliner dress for the Baroness made from moth larvae. Then, on the night when the Baroness was meant to unveil them, they destroyed her newest line, and then Cruella puts on a performance right next door that made the Baroness think she killed our dogs and turned them into a coat. She didn't, but it's still kind of messed up if you think about it. Chaotic evil. The Baroness captures Jasper and Horace and ties them up in their warehouse. Cruella tries to convince her to let them go. Not much else to say other than lawful good, technically. This guy is the Baroness's right-hand man. He pulled Cruella out of the fire when the Baroness tried to murder her. He then explains that the Baroness is in fact her birth mother. She has a bit of an existential crisis over it. Fair, but still chaotic neutral. Breaking your best friends out of prison is a classic chaotic good. She then has a heart-to-heart with them, apologizes, and asks for their help and promises to be better to them. This isn't evil Cruella anymore, and I don't think I care. This is sweet. Lawful good. I know this sounds weird, but Cruella promises not to kill her mother. Instead, she does another, honestly, really cool scene where she convinces all of the guests at her memorial party to cosplay as her. She peacefully figures out a way to remove the guards from the equation, and then figures out a way to publicly demonstrate that the Baroness was a monster by having all the guests watch as she attempts murder. Cruella gives the Baroness every opportunity for peace, but knew that she would attempt to kill her if possible. I can't say this is lawful good per se, because she isn't doing it to rid the world of a monster. She's doing it for herself, which is exactly what I want from Cruella. Lawful neutral. Oh, right, sending Pongo and Perdita to Roger and Anita, I guess is neutral good. I mean, even if they don't keep them, Dalmatians sell for what, a couple £1,000 a pop? Not bad, really. Neutral good. Remember when I said earlier that this really needs to be taken as an alternate universe Cruella? Well, now you can kinda see why. This Cruella de Vil, while trying to be an evil bitch, ends up just being fun and a fairly level-headed mastermind. There was a small portion of the movie where she's being a massive tool to not only her friends, but to, to all of her friends, but that was eventually dropped relatively quickly when the Baroness overpowered her and tried to have her killed. And if I'm being blunt, I think I'm okay with that. Maleficent, which is kind of this movie's comparison, was a dumb and massive waste of time because it was trying to be a complete redemption and rewrite of a character's history with a much, much different backstory than we all imagined. A queen of evil being misunderstood is frankly just really bad because they can't shy away from the Disney brand. Also, the writers just couldn't resist doing the Frozen thing with the whole true love kiss waking up. It's just bad. This Cruella is still kind of a badass and still got enough edge on her to make you think that she could be the bad guy, but you can also believe she could go either way. I found this interpretation of Cruella to be just fine, assuming it is an alternate universe. I do have more thoughts on the movie itself, and if you want to see those, head on over to the other video that I'm dropping today in the D20 Review. See you guys there.